Bleach is one of the most powerful tools you can use to clean and disinfect your bathroom, but only if you use it the right way. So I've partnered with my friends at Clorox to show you how you can tackle those tough and dirty messes in your bathroom, but most importantly, do it in a way that's safe and effective, and I'll even show you a few tips along the way. Now, before we start spraying any bleach cleaners down in the bathroom, I always like to mention to wear gloves and use it in a highly ventilated area. So we want to make sure to turn the fan on, or if you don't have a fan, we can just open a window, and then always make sure to read the product's label before you start cleaning and use as directed. When it comes to cleaning your sink and countertops, this is an area that gets a lot of daily mess. Think things like your toothpaste splatter, just grime, and even germs. So a good cleaner to use in this area is Clorox Clean-Up Cleaner with bleach. The first step is to always pre-clean the areas before we start spraying any cleaners down. Usually in the bathroom, you're gonna find a lot of hair and things, especially stuck to the porcelain on your sink. So what I like to suggest is come through with either a damp towel to remove that or even a duster. Once that's done, the next step is to spray the Clorox Cleanup directly on the sink, faucet, and countertops. Now here, we wanna make sure we let it sit for a minimum of 30 seconds to disinfect. If you've watched my channel before, you know that dwell time is something I talk about a lot, but this is very important, especially when you're using bleach, because you wanna let it sit there so it can do its job. Once that's done, we come through with a damp cloth and we're gonna wipe down all the surfaces that we sprayed the cleaner on. Now we wanna make sure we rinse all of that off because we don't wanna leave any behind. Now a pro tip when you're cleaning your sink is the faucet is an area that can kind of get a little grimy, especially if you have very hard water, and sometimes it's even forgotten. So while I'm scrubbing down the rest of the sink, I make sure to give that a little more attention so it's nice and clean. Now to really level up your clean, I always find it's a good idea to come through with a dry, clean microfiber cloth to not only dry the surface, but we're also gonna buff up the porcelain and the countertop, and this will ensure that there's no streaks left behind. Something to keep in mind is if you do have unsealed natural stone in your bathroom, let's say on the countertops, avoid using bleach on those surfaces. The sink is one of the highest touch surfaces in your bathroom, which means it is kind of a hot spot for bacteria to grow. So by using bleach here, this really helps not only clean the surfaces, but it's gonna disinfect them as well and help prevent those germs from spreading throughout your bathroom and really the rest of your house. Another area in our bathroom that gets a lot of use is our toilet. I recently heard a stat that said on average, we use it about 7 to 9 times a day. So throughout the week, that means that we use the toilet over 50 times, which makes sense, but for me, it just seemed way more than I thought. So it's going to get very grimy, and bleach-based products can really help clean up your toilet fast. Now that being said, it's always a good idea to start inside the toilet bowl first because usually this is the dirtiest area of the toilet. Now before you start applying any cleaners, it's always a good idea to start by just giving the toilet a quick flush. Then I apply 6 ounces of the Clorox Toilet Bowl Cleaner with bleach under the rim and all along the bowl. Then grab your toilet bowl scrubber and give the entire bowl a real good scrub and let it sit for 10 minutes to disinfect. Now once it's done disinfecting, give the toilet a good flush and it's time to move on to the outside of the toilet. I do like to start by dusting before I spray cleaners down because this is gonna help me not create a bigger mess, and I do like to recommend using a top-down approach when cleaning the toilet. You can simply just use some toilet paper or an old duster, but really getting that first layer off helps set your cleanup for success. Then I grab the Clorox Cleanup and spray the toilet down along the toilet seat, the handles, the tank, and the base, really the entire toilet, and let it sit for 30 seconds to disinfect. Once that time is done, then come through and wipe clean with a damp cloth, a paper towel, or even a sponge. And again, I do like to come through and just make sure everything's nice and dry and there's no streaks left behind, so I'll just use a dry towel for this. Now, an area that's often forgotten or sometimes missed altogether doing this job is actually cleaning the floor around the toilet. Things like stinky odors or hidden bacteria can start to grow in this area, so bleach is a great cleaner to not only disinfect, but also it's a great deodorizer that can help knock down and get rid of those stinky bathroom odors. Just simply spray around the base and the floor with the Clorox Clean-Up Cleaner with bleach, let it set again for 30 seconds to disinfect, then wipe clean with a damp cloth. Now a quick pro tip to keep your toilet scrubber nice and clean and just lasting longer is to grab your disinfectant here and spray it down. And then to let it dry, all you have to do is just grab the toilet seat here, just pinch it in between and leave it. And then once it's dry, you can put it away and it won't get grimy. Now grime and mildew are very common in areas like your shower and tub. But bleach does a great job to not only remove and clean up these messes and stains, but it also whitens porcelain and even grout. To get the job done right, start by spraying Clorox Clean-Up generously across the shower and tub walls. Then we're gonna let it sit for 30 seconds if you're just trying to disinfect. However, if you do want to kill mold and mildew, you have to let the cleaner sit for 5 minutes. Dwell time here is your friend, so let the cleaner sit and do the job. Then come through with a non-scratch scrub sponge or a soft brush and give the entire shower a good scrub. One of the big benefits to use bleach when cleaning your shower is that it works fast. When you're using it properly, Clorox Clean-Up Cleaner with bleach disinfects again in just that 30-second time frame, so doing the hard work for you so you don't have to waste time scrubbing forever. Once you're done with that, come through and thoroughly rinse the entire area. Now sometimes the rinsing can be a little bit of a challenge, especially if you don't have a detachable shower head. So a quick pro tip for this is just a simple plastic cup. Fill that up with water and then place it against the surface of the wall and slowly lift the bottom. This will create a little bit of a waterfall, completely rinsing the surface, and it's quick and easy, and usually you don't get very wet. Again, to really level up your clean, it's always a good idea to come through with a dry, clean microfiber cloth and dry and buff the surface so there's no streaks left behind. Now, if you do have a tile and grout shower, what can happen over time is mold and mildew can stain the grout. So let me show you what you can do to bring that back to life. To start, remember safety first, so make sure that you're in a well-ventilated area and wearing gloves. Then mix 1/3 cup of Clorox disinfecting bleach in 1 gallon of water in a bucket. Then all you need to do is just dip a grout brush or even an old toothbrush into that cleaning solution and scrub directly along the grout lines to remove the mold and mildew stains. Now, while you're cleaning your shower with tile and grout, sometimes the tiles themselves will have some mold and mildew buildup. Now, to disinfect that surface, because it's non-porous, you can let the cleaner sit for 6 minutes. But if you want to kill the mold and mildew, you do need to let it sit for 10 minutes. But again, that's only on non-porous surfaces. And to finish, all you need to do is rinse thoroughly with some water and dry with a cloth. Something that can be very helpful to prevent mold and mildew from growing in your shower or tub, and that is just a simple squeegee. All you need to do is just squeegee down the area after each shower. That way the water doesn't sit there, giving the perfect environment for the mold and mildew to grow. Something I really appreciate about bleach is not only is it effective, but it's very versatile. For instance, we've used it today to clean, disinfect, and even deodorize and whiten grout. But one of my favorite areas to use it is in my laundry room. And I just love a cleaner that can do a variety of things. There are some do's and don'ts I like to mention. The first is always wear gloves when you're using bleach. You know, I like to wear my green ones. The second is use it in a highly ventilated area. So if you're cleaning your bathroom like we are today, make sure to turn on the fan, or if you don't have a fan, open up a window. But the main goal here is just to have good airflow throughout the room. The third is always read the label before you start using it and use as directed. I always say the label is the law, so follow it. And the last thing is to always dilute the bleach properly as needed. As for the don'ts, there's 2 I always mention. Number 1, never mix bleach with vinegar or ammonia or really any cleaner, because this will create harmful fumes and we don't want that. And second, always remember to ensure that your surface is bleach safe before you clean that area. And there you have it. Now you know the right way to clean your bathroom with bleach. Thanks so much again to Clorox for sponsoring this video. If you want to check out any of the products I used today, I have them linked down in the description below. I also need to give a huge shout out to the Clean Squad members over on our Patreon. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you want to join us over there, definitely check the link down in the description. And as always, I'll see ya on the next clean.